subconscious stories that we tell ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really at the root of everything that comes out. And you said that beliefs are literally the lens through which we see the world. Could you expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said before, we're operating on this system that is a lot of time just unbeknownst to us. So it's really influences everything in our life. It's how we see ourselves, how we perceive ourselves, and how we perceive the world, right? And everything else that's really in it is based on our subconscious beliefs of not only about ourselves, but about the way the world works. So it's based on our, helps like how we form our relationships, what we put in these little buckets. Like we have buckets of like, this is good, this is bad, this is not okay, or this is okay. It determines your level of happiness, your relationships. I mean, basically everything is, this is like the fundamental. And it's interesting that we're not, of course, like, we're not taught this in school unless you study psychology, which I think it's becoming more and more mainstream, at least in my world, because that's just what I pay attention to. So like whatever you pay attention to, like wherever your energy goes, attention goes, energy flows. So I'm interested in it. So I see it a lot, but I don't know that like maybe just this might be new information for people where it's like we're kind of operating. I always look at it from like a standpoint of your brain is your operating system, right? It's like we all have these smartphones and computers and things like that we're updating. It's like, oh, the newest update. Let me like get that because I want to get all the new features that go along with the update and all the new cool emojis and all that. But it's like with the most thing that our brain is literally controlling us and our world around it. So if we don't like something's in it, but we don't spend the time to really update our mind and our mindset, right? How I control I
like that.
So I always look at it as like, okay, what can I do in order to change my mindset? Because most of us, if you're not living the life that you're extremely happy about and you think you're fulfilled in different areas of your life, then you have a limiting belief somewhere, right? If you struggle, if you procrastinate to do that thing that you've been wanting to do, or you have something that's holding you back in some way, shape, or form, it really stems from a limiting belief that you're not aware of at this point. So that's kind of...
Well, and I like how, in your list of all these things that beliefs really do, like it really does skew your perspective in positive or negative ways. And that it really can establish, we don't realize it establishes a specific course for us. And you also say that it can harness or hijack your passion.
Absolutely, right? Definitely. Because if I want to go and do something in the world, something great, like I have big dreams and big visions, like to change the world, right? But if like that seems very daunting because it's like, I'm just one human being and how could I do that? And I'm not like smart enough and I'm not good enough and I'm like, who do I think I am? But all these things that are like literally like in the background of my mind as I try to do, steps to grow my business or be like, put myself in a place where I could be the expert in something, or just even coming here today where I was having these experiences like, okay, like who am I to like talk about these kind of things? But if I don't talk about it, I'm not sharing what information that possibly could be helpful to somebody. So I have to override that program. But the only way I can do that is like by becoming aware of it first.
Absolutely.
And I think you mentioned it yourself. Have you had that experience where you're
for sure
doing this work?
Absolutely. I mean, just to be transparent, like having photo shoots and, even just doing the kitchen chat and getting all done up and, there are thoughts that enter my mind like look at her Instagram. Who does she think she is? Like, why is she posing or whatever? And I can't, I have to let it go because I am trying to make a difference in the lives of special needs moms. And so I can't let that fear of what will people think of me or who does she think she is and why is she getting fancy pictures taken? Because it's really just about the service of We Are Brave together. That is at the heart of what I'm doing. And pictures, Instagram, social media, filming, all of it, it's just, they're tools to get a message of inspiration or resources or organic mentoring out to the world.
Such a beautiful mission. And I that's, it is hard. And so kudos to you for stepping out of being, in that comfort zone and really saying and like owning who you are, because when you have a mission and you have something to say, and I said this to you earlier, it's like, who are you not to say that, right? Who am I not to share my gifts with the world? Who are you not to share? Because you're out there, somebody needs you. And so when we hide because in our own fear, because of our limiting beliefs, then we're really not doing the service that we came here to do in the world, right? Whether that's be the most amazing mom to, a special needs child, because that's the hardest job, I think. One of them anyways, one of the hardest jobs. It is, right?
Yes.
And so just even like getting through the day and how can I be the best mom, or how can I be the best partner, or how can I be the best to myself, right? So when we let these fears and these like beliefs get in our way of really doing what we came here to do, which is be the best versions of ourselves. So let's dive in a little bit more, and we can talk about
good.
like how we can like override some of these so we can get rid of them and move the needle a little bit.
Let's do it.
For everybody.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's
That
do
would
it.
be
Okay.
great.
All right. So let's even we talked about there's like a 3-step process that we can use, which is I've mentioned this before. Number 1 is just really becoming aware of your limiting beliefs. And one of the ways that I love to do this is really like getting quiet with myself. I know that can be a challenge for a lot of us, like finding the 5 minutes to spend by yourself and do that. But if it requires you getting up, 10, 15 minutes earlier in the morning, or going in a room, or if you have to go in the bathroom and shut the door. I know many of you have said that before, right? Where it's like, just let me go to the bathroom, depending on what stage you are in your process of parenting and the ages of your children. But finding that time and creating that. We all have the same amount of hours in the day, and the most successful people in the world all have a routine in order to like create how they start the day and how they close the day. So one of the ways that I love to do that is starting with a meditation. And it could literally be 5 minutes. And the goal of meditation is not to quiet your mind, because that's actually impossible unless maybe you're a Buddhist monk and you've been doing it for your entire life. But that's not the goal of it. And we're all going to have the thoughts. But the longer that you practice this and you sit in that quiet space, you'll start to notice those things that are bubbling up, right? Because it's all with emotions, like it's actually, emotions are energy in motion. So most of us, especially, we push our emotions away. Like, oh, I'm too tired to deal with that. Oh, I'm too busy. I don't have time. I'm too this, I'm too that to deal with my emotions, right? But as you know, when you use the example before of being patient, that's an exhaustive resource, especially when we've limited the amount of energy that we have moving. So really, in order to be quiet, to let that stuff come up and be able to write it down so you can become aware of it, right? Awareness is the key. We can't change anything until we have awareness of it,
absolutely.
right? And then the second part to this is challenging that limiting belief. Like, is this really true, right? Like, am I not really good enough? Like, if that was, I'll go back to my example of like a limiting belief that was really kind of a core belief that I've worked on for a long time. And this is a practice. This is not something like one and done. This is a practice, and they're going to come up with over different points of our time, but we can talk about how to eradicating them. But if my belief is like challenging that true, like I'm not enough, and then I'm going to find evidence to support that that's not true. Like, no, I am enough. Like, I've done this, and I can write down lots of wonderful things that I've accomplished, or I've done, or I've helped people, or, just yesterday, this lady fell while I was walking out of Home Goods, and she fell, and I just sat there with her. I wasn't trying to fix it. I just held her hand because I knew she was scared, and, and it was just me showing up. And sometimes, check that box, like, I am enough. Like, me just being present can be enough. Like, we don't have to be the hero and do some heroic. It just could be being fully present might just be. So challenging your the truths about the limiting belief that you've created for yourself. And
can I ask or just something? Because I know all mothers, and definitely all special needs mothers, at some point or many times say, I can't do this. I wasn't made to do this. So how do we challenge the truth behind that? What somebody has said to me is, well, that's not true, because look at all that you have done. You didn't run away from your life. You're not living on some island and, said goodbye to your family. Like, you are doing this every single day. There is proof that yes, you have done this, that you have done well. You're not just, hiding in your closet all day long. You are going through the roles and responsibilities and tasks of being a mother for your children or your special needs child and getting stuff done. That's the proof. That's the truth.
Absolutely.
So that's what we have to remind ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. And if you have to, I love to, and I suggest it with my clients, I got Post-it notes all over my room and my mirrors, great job, you're killing it today, you're crushing it. Because we need those constant reminders, because we can't always do that for ourselves, because again, we're going to pick out all the reasons that we're not being a good mom, or we're not doing something good enough, right? And that is literally just, again, going back to that, how the brain is organized in order to keep us safe. It's just we're sort of like that old operating system that I said that we haven't updated, is that it's just really trying to keep you alive, right? Were you alive today? Your brain's check. Okay, and then is your identity intact, meaning your old identity, which is the one that's not enough, or whatever those limiting beliefs are. It's check. That's why it's really difficult to override that, because it again, your subconscious mind isn't really doesn't care if you're think you're a great mom. It just wants to. So it's going to do the same things over. Have you ever done this? We literally, the definition of insanity, right, is doing the same things over. Yeah. But we do the same things over, and then we complain about them. Why am I not happy? Why do I not feel good? Why am I exhausted? Why am I this? But we think change is hard, and we tell ourselves, how many times have you heard that?
Right.
Change is hard.
Yes.
Actually, change is not hard. It just takes it requires some effort, but it's actually not as hard as we think. I think staying the same is hard. I think staying uncomfortable is much harder than change, right? So, and one thing I'm gonna get t-shirts made, but get uncomfortable, get comfortable being uncomfortable, because life is uncomfortable. Right? You're just going to be uncomfortable whether you're doing it or not, whether you're staying home and binging on Netflix and pretending that I don't want to go out in the world because somebody might be embarrassed because my kid threw a tantrum, or my kid doesn't sit in restaurants so I can't go outside. All the excuses that you have, I've had them all too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Well, why I can't do it, or why I can't go out. And you just have to create the truths. And so we'll talk about that, where it's you have to create the new belief, then we have to implant it in our subconscious mind, and then make that the normal belief, right? That's my new belief. I go to Target, and if my son stands in front of the aisles with all the toys, and he's talking to himself and he's having a great time, and that's okay. Right. I don't have a problem with that anymore. But before, I used to be oh my God, that's so embarrassing, or what are people going to think, or they're going to judge me, or they're going to, but I've created a new belief system about that makes my son happy. Yeah. So that's what we do.
I like that.
But yeah, so again, let's just kind of go over that so we can reinforce this, because repetition is the key to your success, right? Repetition, right? And so I like to get quiet. Let's creating a meditation. And one of my favorite apps, you can write this down, is the Insight Timer, which is a fabulous tool. You download it, it's free. There's 30,000 minutes. You can just do 5 minutes and do a guided meditation, but just get quiet, get a journal, write some of these thoughts down that are happening, and then you can either just create a column, take a piece of paper and write in the half, the limiting belief, and then what is my new belief, right? Louise Hay is one of the pioneers. She was an amazing woman, wrote some amazing books called You Can Heal Your Life. And basically her whole work was just about positive affirmations. And she created a whole shift around using positive affirmations. So that is a great resource.
So become aware of your limiting beliefs, challenge the truth behind those limiting beliefs, and then implant, normalize, and pattern new beliefs and identity into your subconscious. Those are a few steps to get started in changing the way you think.
Yeah, and we'll talk about more step 3. Obviously, that's a little bit more technical, and then that's what we'll talk more about how you can actually do that. So there's some tools that we can use for that.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.